site, go through the deck in more in depth if you'd like to. So we have a really interesting pipeline of drugs. What I really want to focus on today is talk to you about is HT001. HT001 is the first drug that's in clinical trials for chemotherapy rash. So when patients go through chemotherapy, about 79% of patients actually develop a chemo rash. 39% of patients have to stop, here's the pipeline by the way, their treatment because of these horrible cutaneous lesions and painful lesions that take over the chest, the face, the back, the nails, all over your body, and it's extremely painful, and this chemo rash causes these patients to have to actually stop treatment. There's nothing currently on the market for chemotherapy rash. You can look, all you'll see is corticosteroids, Aquaphor, and so forth, and docs will kind of say, you just gotta work your way through it and deal with the pain. Now, like I said, 30+% of these patients can't deal with the pain, and they actually have to wait for the rash to subside. So here's our pipeline just to give you what we're working on: oncology, neurology, dermatology, and inflammatory. What we're focused on, as I said, for 24 and 25 is really 001 and HTK, our HT Alzheimer's drug, also some preclinical data. Here's HT001, kind of give you an idea of the market opportunity here. So we're currently right now in a phase 2 study. There's the PK patients and then the randomized patients as well. Study is currently taking place at MD Anderson, NYU Langone, WashU, Montefiore, and a few other sites. All top-notch oncology sectors. And what we're doing is we're kind of working with the oncologists and what's called oncoderms. So as you can see, it's a 12-week study. This came out of GW, the asset we licensed at George Washington University. There's no current approved products on the market, as I mentioned, that treat this EGFR inhibitor cutaneous toxicities. Just to give you another idea, there's a whole new lot of drugs that are coming to the market that are, EGFR type assets. All have the same biggest side effect. Side effect is the chemotherapy rash. So all the sites are active and enrolling. Q1, we're hoping to have some data, interim data to share with you on the trial. We had a case study that came out of WashU where Dr. Adam Friedman, who's the head oncoderm at WashU, treated a patient who was going through breast cancer who had to stop treatment. Within 10 days, the rash, after being treated with HT001, completely vanished. The patient was able to go right back to their treatment for breast cancer. And that study, you can look up Hoth Therapeutics, GW, rash. So here's what the study looks like. It's an IND opening trial. As I mentioned, randomized placebo-controlled parallel phase 2A dose ranging study. So what does that all mean? Let me kind of break it down. The first 12 patients are our PK patients. So we'll take our bloods from, follow up, make sure there's no toxicities with the drug, and so forth. Then we have the randomized part, double-blind period. It's a 6-week treatment, and then the follow-up. That's 140 patients. Well, as I mentioned, we hope to give you in January a little bit of a glimpse of what this trial looks like. Obviously, hoping for the best. So here's how this kind of 505B development pathway works, which is something that's really unique and evolving for our company. What we want to do is we really want to cut down on expenses, right? Drug development is an extremely expensive business. It's a money-raising business constantly. We don't want the constant dilution for ourselves or our investors. So the goal with the 505B really is to kind of skip certain pathways that you would have to go down with an initial drug. So this is a combination of 2 older drugs that we repurposed, made it into a topical formulation, have patents all over, so a nice gate, so nobody else could use the type of asset that we're using. And that kind of lets us skip the phase 1 portion of this trial and go right to this 505B2 program. I want to give you some look at the preclinical work that we did at GW. So this kind of gives you an idea how we significantly reduce the toxicity of the drugs. You can kind of look at the animals up on top and see the rash they developed. and then see after we treated it with HG001 what they look like. What we kind of came out that was kind of neat also in doing this preclinical work is we also found out that we were able to retain the hair on the animals as well. As many of you know, when you go through a cancer treatment, the patient could lose all their hair. So this is something else that we filed a patent on that we think could be effective for the drug as well, in order to help patients be able to keep their own hair. HG-KIT is another drug I'd like to talk about. This is out of NC State. This drug, we have orphan drug status that was granted by the FDA. This is equivocally a nucleotide mRNA frame shift drug. So what does that mean? Well, what's kind of interesting here and why we got the orphan drug status is we were able to show that HG-KIT shrunk tumors within a week of use. Now, those are in animal studies. In 2025, we hope to start our phase 1 for that drug. And we kind of give you what's going on right here. We have our GLP study that's currently going to start in Q1. That'll test the toxicity of the drug, make sure no animals are harmed, make sure that the patients would be able to go through max dose without any ramifications that would be negative. Q4 of 25 for the IND submission target, hopefully to start that trial in 25. And that's an injectable drug, not a topical. The topical is HG001. Kind of talked here about how we got orphan drug status from the FDA. So orphan drug status is just not granted. This is something you have to apply for, something that the FDA is very rigorous upon in giving out this designation. Allows us to move forward once again at a quicker pace and gives us a lot more stability around our patent protection and the ability to bring this drug to market and treat this one particular tumor. So you can kind of see here how HG-KIT works. Kind of shows the systematic delivery and how we inhibited the tumor growth in these animals. All this data is obviously published on our website. Once again, you can feel free to go through it. So HG-KIT also reduced the liver infiltration of these neoplastic mast cells in this xenograft model that we ran. This model was run out of NC State under Dr. Glenn Cruz, who is the inventor of this drug. All the drugs that we currently have in development, except for our HG-Alls drug, are licensed from higher learning institutions like George Washington University, NC State, University of Maryland, Baltimore, to give you a few. HG-Alls is actually a drug that I invented. This is a really interesting project that we're working on at WashU, St. Louis, with Dr. Carla and Dr. John. Their information's up on our site. You can take a look at how much they have worked in the Alzheimer's dementia area, and how excited they are about this particular drug. It's a substance B inhibitor. We showed that in our preclinical studies, the function came back to the brain. We reduced the different cells that were causing inflammation in the brain that sort of works with dementia and Alzheimer's. So we have our formulation work currently underway. We just recently got a patent issued about a month ago. Preclinical studies are completed at WashU. What we're trying to do here also is, I don't know if you're familiar with any Alzheimer's patients, but they have a hard time swallowing, just like a lot of Parkinson's patients. So what we did is, in developing this drug, we're using a thin strip oral film. So it goes in the mouth, dissolves in 5 seconds. So the patient doesn't have to worry about the different mechanism of swallowing or choking. So this is our development pathway. As I said, we have the mouse studies that are finished. Formulation development, pre-IND meeting, and the IND submission in 26 for this drug. The reason we're in 26 for this particular drug is we're so focused right now on HG001 and on HG-KIT. As a biotech company, as I mentioned, our funding, we have around $10 million in the bank at this point. We're focused on spending that money on our trial for HG001 and on the continued development of HG-KIT. BioLexa, we had a trial done in Australia for this drug. This is for atopic dermatitis in adolescent patients. So currently, there's 2 types of drugs available for children who are going through atopic dermatitis. There's your corticosteroids. The problem with corticosteroids are they thin the film of the skin, so you have a greater chance for burns, pigmentation issues, and also what's called corticosteroid addiction, where you have to keep using more and more to get the same results. There's one other drug out of Pfizer that's approved that hasn't had the best results, but that's the only other drug that's on the market currently that is a topical, that does not have a corticosteroid. The other ones are like Dupixent and others that are biologics that are injectables. So a lot of parents don't want to put their kids through injectable drugs. And we released the results of this trial, and all patients did resolve, and safety was shown to be 100%. So, as I mentioned, these are the milestones that we had. We continue to develop BioLexa, and that'll be a 25 project as well. Clinical study program that we ran, it was a randomized double-blind, vehicle controlled, and this was done, as I mentioned, on Australia. Australia, that data that we did in Australia is transferable to the FDA here. Yes, sir.
Probably be better to wait till the end of your presentation.
Sure.
You said you have 10 million in the bank?
About 10 million in the
And
bank.
how many shares are there outstanding?
There's about 6.5.
So you have more.
More cash than what the stock is trading at this point, correct?
Is there debt?
There's no debt.
And a lot of warrants outstanding?
There are warrants, yeah. There are warrants. There are warrants at about 270, and I believe 350 is most of the warrants are at.
How do you plan to pursue some of these trials? I understand 10 million in market cap, that's very attractive.
Right.
But you're gonna have a continuing problem.
Well,
What's your burn?
so our burn is around, I want to say about $200,000 a month.
It's very low.
Yes. So, once again, that's for our current trial that's going on, and as far as, our employees.
What trial is this? 1, 2, 3?
HT001 is the phase 2 trial that's going on that we hope to have data for in January. So,
You actually, data in January?
correct. We'll have
When did that
preliminary
start?
data. The trial started about 8 months ago. We'll have preliminary data for the phase 2 trial.
Exceptionally attractive.
Well, it's exceptionally attractive if the drug works, right? So, you look at it the same way I look at it, right? I'll give you my take, as I'm an investor and I'm a former hedge fund guy. So let's look at it and say we're a biotech company. What do biotech companies do? They burn money, unfortunately, until they get a partner or approval for a drug. That's just the way it is. Unfortunately, it's a very expensive process.
What hedge fund were you with?
PAW Partners. Works with Peter Wright. So we can kind of look at this two different ways. We have a lot of shots on goal. We have data coming, as I mentioned, interim data on the phase 2 trial for HT001. And what we want to do, unlike a lot of other drug companies, is we don't want to be in the commercialization business, right? I don't want to hire sales staff. I don't want to be a manufacturer of therapeutics. We need a partner to work with our drug. So we're hoping with HT001 or one of our other drugs that we hit that goal that we have on shot, right? And are able to find a partner for development of these drugs. But we've continued, obviously, like most biotech companies, having to tap the equity markets in order to continue our development of our drug. That's just the way this works with biotechs, and depending on how many assets you have. So what we've kind of done, as I mentioned, really focusing on 2025 is for HT001 and HTK, and focusing our spending on those two things because those give us the biggest return opportunities in 2025 because we're closest to having data on those particular options.
How are you going to raise money?
So there's two ways. One, if we think we have great data on our drugs, perhaps somebody wants to partner with us. We've seen that before where, larger drug companies obviously come in, they want to own the particular asset or they want to partner on it, and they're willing to pay some of the clinical expenses, and they also pay you milestones as you go. Or the other way to do it, obviously, is to tap the equity markets if the stock performs and raise money that way.
How big is the HT001?
Is the market opportunity? So it's a great question. Is it $1 billion drug? That's what we think. There's an analyst report out of EF, now Dave Burrell, there's an analyst report out of Benchmark and a few others that classify it as a possible $500 to $1 billion drug.
With an $8 million market cap, you don't need to have $1 billion drug.
I don't need that, right, but if I do, what is my stock worth? I don't know. I'm not
Worth more.
right, more than where we are today. Right. So I'm going to continue to go through this if you don't mind. So as we talked about by Alexa, proof of concept results came out. This is on our site, once again, that you could all look through, and the results are there. Preclinical development, HT003, 004, and TBI. These are drugs that are currently in development that we're not spending money on this year or 25. So I'm going to kind of skip through these. You all can go through these once again on the site. And what I'd like to do is, let's move through here. Give you an idea on the investment highlights, as I mentioned. So some of the folks that are on our board, Adam Friedman, once again, from George Washington University, John Zippin from Weill Cornell, Mariola Couture from NYU Langone. These are all top tier oncoderms and derms. And Dr. Glenn Cruz, who's a cancer expert at NC State. That's the presentation. Happy to take any questions, comments. I think I've answered most of what this gentleman already you might have on your mind. Yes, sir.
Just in terms of milestones going
Sure.
forward, you mentioned January.
Yes.
Are there others that you could?
Yeah, so I think the ones in January for HT001, as I mentioned. First quarter for HT kit, we'll have some more preclinical data on that. We'll also have some issues that we have talked about where we can talk about how the stability has worked or not worked for HT kit. I think we'll have some positive information as we move into development of HT alls as well as the formulation. So I think we have a lot of possibilities for 25 to talk to in the first quarter that are exciting for the company.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. Anybody else? Comments, questions? All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
With more than 6,000 small and micro cap companies listed, if you're looking for the next Apple, then Channel Check truly is your treat. It's an investor community where you can access independent Wall Street research, advanced market data, balanced news, corporate videos, and podcasts. You can even register to attend in-person Meet the Management Series lunches, and to be part of the preeminent annual Small and Microcap Investor Conference, NobleCon. And here's the best news. Since Channel Check is sponsored by the featured companies, premium membership requires no investment. It's absolutely free. So check it out. Log in today. Find out why Channel Check is North America's leading source of research on the companies that just may change the world.